If you have any sort of stage lighting and you want to control these lights, DMX is the best way to do so. It's a universal language that all your lights respond to and can be controlled regardless of their make, model, or type of fixture. And two of the most popular solutions for mobile DJs is SoundSwitch and Wolfmix. In this video, we're going to do a brief introduction of each, weighing the pros and cons of each, and we're going to answer the question, which is better, SoundSwitch or Wolfmix? Hey everybody, how's it going? Daryl here, welcome to the channel. I've had this question asked so many times, which is better, SoundSwitch or Wolfmix? And so to answer that question adequately, I wanted to get more familiar with Wolfmix because I've been using SoundSwitch since 2018, 2019, and I've been loving it ever since. And so over the past few weeks, you've seen me release different content for Wolfmix, like a tutorial and some reels of me using it at gigs. And I do have a SoundSwitch shortcut, which is my own template full of presets to help DJs bypass all the tedious programming and get a deliverable light show right away. And I didn't want people to think I was biased towards SoundSwitch because of that, so I released a Wolfmix shortcut solely for this video to be a little bit more fair and balanced as I can be. I'm going to do a brief introduction and talk about each one. Then I'm going to talk about what it's like to set up. I'm going to share my experiences with performing with each, and along the way talk about some of the quirks of each solution, and then we're going to do the verdict, which one is better. So let's begin. So SoundSwitch was conceptualized with really two main ideas in mind. Instead of just having your lights on sound active mode, just responding to whatever they hear in the moment, rather pre-analyzing your track and syncing up more closely to the beat and having some fluctuating energy depending on what part of the song it is, and also it's free autonomous control. To play back these time-coded songs, it's as simple as dropping the track in your DJ software, and that's it. You don't have to be pushing a ton of buttons to make a beautiful light show. And along the way, SoundSwitch has added additional functionality to make it appealing towards other types of performances like band lighting, stage lighting, at least on the small scale, because with SoundSwitch you can control up to 2 universes, which is more than enough for most DJs I've talked to. And SoundSwitch really has 3 main components. They have scripting, auto loops, and static scenes. So the scripts, which can be auto-generated, called auto scripts, or manually tweaked, is really the heart of SoundSwitch, where you have different tracks in your library, your crates, and you give instructions to your lights what to do at any given moment. And then auto loops are what the rest of the DMX world calls chases. A DMX chase is a series of scenes played in a specific order to create an animation type of effect. And that is the default behavior of your lights when you're playing a song that is not scripted, or you're using a DJ software that's not Virtual DJ, Serato, or an engine-enabled device. And static scenes in SoundSwitch are a bank of scenes which are a single saved lighting configuration, like a specific color or position for all of your connected lights. For instance, having all of your lights be a candlelight color. And getting started with SoundSwitch is really easy. It's as simple as getting the dongle, which is really inexpensive, and it comes with a 3-month trial. And if you prefer to pay monthly, you can pay $7.99 a month. Or if you just want to own it outright, not pay a monthly subscription, it is $199 for a lifetime annual license for the 2.0. And if you want more flexibility to have more buttons to push to have more dynamic control during your performance, you can do so by picking up the Control 1, which is $299 at the time of making this video. And SoundSwitch does need to be on a laptop to be controlled. And if you want to take advantage of that scripting feature I mentioned, SoundSwitch needs to be on the same laptop that your music is on. You can also run SoundSwitch in standalone mode, meaning you still need a laptop, but you don't need to be connected to DJ software. And if you have an engine-enabled device, like a Denon DJ or Newmark controller, that comes equipped with engine lighting, which is really just SoundSwitch. And I gotta say that the engine DJ workflow is such a cool one. You just need one device to handle all of your lighting and music, and that is just so minimalist, and I'm in love with it. So the Wolfmix is a standalone DMX lighting controller. It's about the size of a MIDI pad, and it boasts having a lot of on-the-fly control. But if you want to have that mostly autonomous workflow where your lighting just runs itself, you can also do that on the Wolfmix by creating presets, and then you can control how it plays back all of these different presets, and it's super configurable. Like, you can choose the duration of presets, you can choose whether you repeat or loop a preset, you can choose how it transitions to the next one, like if you want it to fade into it, just a sudden jump, and you can even connect two Wolfmixes together if you need more on-the-fly control. Wolfmix has a visualizer while SoundSwitch does not. And so really the heart of Wolfmix is that it has 3 different effects engines, a color engine, a beams engine, which is like the on and off of your lights, and a movement engine. And basically you add all of your lights onto the Wolfmix, you assign it to groups, and then at any given moment, you tell the Wolfmix which group you want to listen to that engine at any given time. And then each of these engines has a bunch of presets and different knobs. And a single Wolfmix unit can control up to 4 universes. And there is no free trial with Wolfmix. If you want to get into it, you have to buy the hardware, which it's $860 at the time of making this video. So let's talk about getting set up. Both of these do have a little bit of a learning curve, and it does take a little bit of work. And I recommend some patience with either one before deciding to jump ship, because it does take some technical knowledge to get this all in there. With SoundSwitch, you basically have to patch in all of your light fixtures, add them into the program. And if your lights are not in there, SoundSwitch has a really nice fixture editor where you can easily create a new fixture. Wolfmix comes with a bunch of lighting fixtures already put on the unit, and you can download more profiles from their website and even create your own fixtures that way. It's not as straightforward in my opinion, but the option is there. And with SoundSwitch, if you have movers, you have to set your positions. Otherwise, by default, it'll just be pointing straight up. And you're basically ready to go at that point. I made a whole entire video of showing that if that's all you did, this is what the light show would look like. Not super impressive, but also a lot better than just having all my lights on auto mode. Auto loops is the default behavior, and it comes with a ton of auto loops. And with the click of one button, you can have up to 128 auto loops pre-generated. And then you have a ton of flexibility if you want to customize those auto loops further, and you can do just about anything with that if you have enough patience. Because while it does have some effect banks where you can like drag and drop different like chases, color chases, and intensity chases, they're pretty rudimentary, and there hasn't been major improvements in a long time. You can auto script your auto loops, which does improve them a little bit, but then it starts to feel a little bit redundant after a while. And then you can auto script your library. Whether you auto script a few bangers, an entire crate, or your whole library, and do like a batch auto script, you can do that. And if you add additional fixtures, you can reanalyze your entire library or not, because it will always listen to that master track. And while it's cool that you have the flexibility to like manually tweak individual songs, for those that are wanting to have the workflow or they auto script the entire library, they may find that they don't like some of the automation settings, and there's really not a good way without manually manipulating it to fix that at the time of making this video. Wolfmix, you also have to add in your fixtures, and you also have to like adjust your movers. Like you have to adjust like where you want them to point. And I find it to be a little bit troublesome that if you mostly want them on the dance floor, but then you want them to shine behind you, like at a disco ball, for instance, it is really hard to do that. And on the official release at the time of making this video, it's really hard to point different movers in a specific direction. But with the Double Trouble update, it's a little bit more flexible on where you want to point your movers. And they do have a preset generator now with the beta firmware. So it creates 80 presets. It's relatively simple to tweak it and meet your needs. And then I'm going to share my experiences with performing with these. I think it's cool that SoundSwitch connects to your DJ laptop. That's really not been a huge issue for me to have my lighting and my music on the same laptop. Modern day laptops are very powerful and it can handle that kind of workload. SoundSwitch isn't this huge, massive process, but I can definitely see how some people are skeptical to want to have their lighting and their music on one device. And while this has happened to me rarely, there's been a couple of times where SoundSwitch needed to be restarted or lost connection to like Virtual DJ, and Virtual DJ had to be restarted. And it's really tricky to do that while you're in the middle of a dance set. Not so bad during cocktail hour, but as far as hardware, I like having the Control 1 so I can just access all of the buttons in front of me. And while I like to mostly perform autonomously, letting the lights just handle themselves, I like to have some manual input, like to set the scene during dinner, and then push a button to make my light strobe during the drop, just for an extra boost of energy. And I mostly use auto loops rather than auto scripts. Just the nature of my YouTube channel, I'm always swapping lights, and to get the best results with scripts, not change your lights too often. But yeah, SoundSwitch has been really reliable. It's done a really good job and I love it. And then the Wolfmix, I didn't think that standalone functionality was a big deal, but I do like it. It is really nice because when I set up my lights, I want to make sure that I have a DMX signal transmitting so that when I turn on my lights, I can see that if it's operating properly. And then it's super nice too that if my music dies, my laptop dies for whatever reason, I'm not scrambling for lighting and music. The lighting is separate. And so that is actually a pretty nice workflow. And I did make this video, which I don't know, is 1 million views viral. I feel like for lighting stuff, it's pretty niche. So maybe it can be viral. And you can do this in SoundSwitch with like a Windows tablet. But it's nice because the Wolfmix has the tactile control and you can go on the go quite easily. So that was pretty fun. So something really neat about Wolfmix is the on-the-fly control. That means if you have a preset and you want to adjust it slightly, you can. You can like change the colors of that preset. You can change the movements to speed up or slow down just by twisting a couple of knobs. And in SoundSwitch, you can't really do that. You can't adjust your scripts or your auto loops on the fly. But that's not to say that there isn't some on-the-fly control. In addition to being able to change the auto loop selected and the auto script selected, there's a bunch of different pads that change all the lighting globally, and these really don't require you to do any pre-programming. So there's these color pads, there's the strobe pad, the hue pad, the blackout pad, the smoke pad, and these are slightly configurable. You can adjust the parameters like the strobe rate. And Wolfmix has some pads very similar to this. And Wolfmix also has some performance pads like that with a strobe, a blinder, the AD button that kind of sprinkles a bunch of white sparkly effects across all your lighting fixtures. And they are a little bit more configurable than the SoundSwitch, but it is pretty similar. I think that when people watch a video like this, they're looking for a clear-cut winner, and it's disappointing when there isn't one. And unfortunately, I think both of these solutions are great to control your DMX lights, and they have their strengths and their weaknesses. And while both offer on-the-fly control and some pre-programming, SoundSwitch is definitely stronger at the pre-programming and customizability. And Wolfmix has better on-the-fly control, and it's easier to create interesting chases on it. And as a mobile DJ, I think our needs are somewhere in the middle. We're not wanting to push a ton of buttons on our lighting controller during the performance because we have to juggle the responsibilities of being an MC as well as mixing the music. And we're not wanting to spend a ton of time pre-programming every song in our library because there's just not enough hours in the day to do that. In essence, SoundSwitch can do more than Wolfmix, but it has more moving parts. And when you add complexity, there are more things that can go wrong. And it takes a little bit more setup with all that complexity. Wolfmix, I feel like this video I've just been talking about SoundSwitch so much, just talking about that it has all these like flashy features. That's just because Wolfmix is just simple. It's a remarkable, nifty little gadget, and I really like it. And while it does have limitations in what you program, I think for most people, that's really not going to be a concern to them. And ultimately, it's just a matter of preferences. For me, I like the light show I created with SoundSwitch better because I've just been adding to it here and there throughout the years to have it be what it is today. And I came up with my light show a lot quicker in Wolfmix. There was a lot less friction from being an idea in my head to being implemented on the controller. But that said, I think I came up with the light show a lot quicker in Wolfmix because I have all those years programming in SoundSwitch. I knew exactly what I was doing when I made the light show. And over these past few years, I've had a lot of people want me to try Wolfmix, and they were so sure that I would just embrace it and completely make it my main lighting solution once I just tried it out. And unfortunately, that's not the case. But that's not to say that I don't like the Wolfmix and that I'm not going to use it from here and there. And it makes a great backup. It's really nice that I can control my lights without needing my laptop present. So I have all of my hardware, all of my lighting fixtures have the same DMX addresses, so I can just switch between the two solutions. And in fact, speaking of backups, I think that SoundSwitch is better as a backup. Because with the Wolfmix, if the Wolfmix fails for whatever reason, let's say a belligerent guest dumps their entire drink on it, you're going to need another Wolfmix as your redundancy or a different lighting solution altogether. But with SoundSwitch, you can have SoundSwitch installed on your backup laptop and you're good to go. The hardware, if your Control 1 dies, you can just pack a separate dongle in your gear bag seamlessly. If you're on the fence and not sure which solution to use, SoundSwitch is just so easy to get started with that free trial and the inexpensive hardware. So you can give it a shot, and then if you don't like it, you can invest more into the Wolfmix and make that decision yourself. And if you're just looking for a little shortcut to success, getting your lights to behave and be under control without much thought, the Wolfmix or the SoundSwitch shortcut is here for you. And on this channel, I never want to tell you that DMX programming is so daunting and so difficult that you can't figure it out. So you have to buy my shortcut if you're going to get the most results out of the software, but it is here for you. Not everybody is crazy like me and enjoys programming lights as much as I do. And you want to focus on other aspects of your business, and you have more enjoyment and fulfillment in other aspects like the mixing and the music. And I understand that. So the shortcut is here for you. I'll have links in the description below where you can check those out. What are your thoughts on SoundSwitch and Wolfmix? How are you controlling your lights? If you switched from SoundSwitch to Wolfmix or vice versa, let me know why down below. And please smash like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.